Hey everyone, Ghost Keyboard here. I'm coming to you from this breathtaking resort, and in my hand is the brand new GMKtec Evo T1 powered by an Intel Ultra 9 processor, the almighty Intel 285H. I had to take it everywhere I go. I have some feelings for these little piece of high tech. I threat them nicely. If I go out, it's coming with me. My girlfriend loved it too because she said it's small and tiny, but at the same time powerful. I heard that those little beasts are good at AI workloads. So in this video, we are going to dedicate a huge chunk of this review to the AI performances of this Mini. Hold on, have you noticed something fishy during this introduction? Did you spot it? It's fake, but not everything is fake. Unfortunately, my girlfriend is not a 10. I don't even know if I have a girlfriend. Is this world real? But fear not, while my AI girlfriend might be fake, the Evo T1's performance is the real deal. Let me know in the comment who wasn't fooled by my AI girlfriend. The AI tag is often slapped onto mini PC models or processors by Intel and AMD, but without clear guidelines on how to actually access AI features. The GMKtec Evo T1 stands out by including two pre-installed AI models that run locally right on your mini PC. You can launch them with a single click using the GMKtec AI PC app. For those familiar with large language models, LLMs, this app might feel a bit limited. But for newcomers, it's a convenient and user-friendly way to get started with LLMs. The app also includes a built-in store featuring popular cloud-based services like Stable Diffusion, Canvas, Gemini, and more. Here on the Ghost Keyboard Review channel, we do things the proper way. We go beyond traditional benchmarks and focus on real-world performance. First, we'll take a look at the classic benchmark scores of this top-tier Intel chip. Then, we'll quickly review its specs and compare its results with AMD HX 370 processor. And even throw in a few real-world comparisons with the AMD 8545H. For our AI testing, we'll be benchmarking a range of models, from the compact DeepSeek 8B to the massive Qwen 32B. But the real highlight is the latest OpenAI 20B, which I was able to run locally at full BF16 precision. We're also going to test an AI companion model to see how it performs locally, focusing on emotional range and character consistency. Then we'll push the Evo T1's AI capabilities even further by connecting an external GPU via its Oculink port. We'll explore image and video generation using Wan and Flux models, and I'll show you how I inserted my AI-generated girlfriend into real seaside resort footage. But the Evo T1 isn't just about AI, it's a true all-rounder. It delivers gaming performance that's unheard of for an Intel iGPU. We'll compare the Evo T1's Intel Arc 140 graphics with AMD's HX 370 and 780M IGPUs, and we'll also test some AAA titles using an external GPU. I'll share my thoughts on how its EGPU performance stacks up against the Evo X1 powered by an AMD processor. If you are interested into purchasing this mini PC, you can check out the link to the Amazon official GMKtec store in the video descriptions. You can get it around $1,025 with the $250 coupon applied and the 5% discount with the promo code applied. The Evo T1 is powered by Intel's latest top-tier mobile processor, the Arrow Lake 285H. And here's the twist. It's not manufactured by Intel, but by TSMC. Technically, this chip sets a new milestone with its 3-nanometer manufacturing process. We've got the classic Intel-style mix of performance cores, efficiency cores, and low-power efficiency cores? What the hell, aren't efficiency cores already low power? Anyway, the specs are serious. 16 cores, 16 threads, and a max performance core frequency of 5.4 GHz. This mini PC is a real powerhouse. On the graphics side, Intel is clearly aiming for respect with this processor. The 140T iGPU, as we'll see in the gaming tests, proves that Intel can game. It's the most accomplished Intel iGPU to date. Not quite at the level of AMD's 890M, but it's getting close. Accessing the RAM and SSD is easy. The rubber feet can be removed without a screwdriver, and tearing off the bracket reveals a large 92mm cooling fan dedicated to the memory and storage. On the underside, there's a second cooling fan specifically for the NPU. The Evo T1 features a larger case compared to GMKtec's AMD-based models. While GMKtec sometimes opts for airflow optimization with smaller enclosures, Intel's high-end processors tend to run hotter due to their higher TDP, so a larger case makes sense here. After removing 4 additional side panel screws, you can access the RAM and SSD storage and get a sneak peek at the advanced cooling system thanks to the integrated vapor chamber located right here. My Evo T1 model comes with pre-installed DDR5 RAM running at 5600 MHz. Keep in mind, though, the Evo T1 supports up to 128 GB of RAM at 6400 MHz. So we're leaving some performance on the table with this 5600 MHz kit. I wish it had the full 6400 MHz speed. We've also got not 2, but 3 NVMe PCIe slots. Only one of them supports 4 lanes. The other 2 are limited to 2 lanes each. This unit includes a 1TB Crucial PCIe 4.0 SSD, but its speed is pretty average for Gen 4. I've seen much better benchmark results on the K8 Plus model. As for wireless, the Evo T1 uses Intel's AX201 Wi-Fi 6 adapter, which is solid. Definitely better than those Realtek Wi-Fi 6 modules you find in cheaper builds. On the I/O side, we're spoiled. The front panel gives us 3 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, 1 USB 4 Type-C port with 40 gigabits per second bandwidth, a pinhole for CMOS reset, and the power button. On the back panel, GMKtec clearly listened to the feedback. That front-facing Oculink port wasn't popular, so they moved it to the rear. Happy now? Back here, we've got a second USB 4 Type-C port, also delivering 40 gigabits per second speeds, 2 2.5 gig LAN Ethernet ports, another audio jack, 1 HDMI 2.1 port, a DisplayPort 1.4, 2 USB 2 port, and a barrel jack for charging. For reference, the power adapter's input and output specs are shown right here on screen. The Evo T1 offers 3 power mode configurations. All tests in this review were conducted using performance mode. To unlock maximum performance, make sure to check your Windows power settings and select the best performance option. If you want to squeeze out a bit more speed, you can disable the AI NPU. The BIOS appears to be fully unlocked, giving you access to plenty of advanced options, including CPU and RAM overclocking. But for this review, we're sticking with the default settings. Next, I'll show you how to reserve RAM for the IGPU. This setting is especially useful when running LLMs. Just keep an eye on your RAM usage in Task Manager to optimize performance. Not all LLM models behave the same way when it comes to RAM and VRAM allocation. If you are going to use an eGPU, be sure to select Auto Mode for primary display and internal graphic. If not, you are going to run into issues. Now we're moving on to synthetic benchmarks. Though honestly, I don't want to dwell too long here. What really matters is real-world performance, especially with a high-end Intel processor like this one. I'll display the usual synthetic scores in a batch and include a few comparisons with the HX370. Just for reference, the Evo T1 scored an impressive 128 points in the Cinebench 2024 single-core test. And that's exactly why it's going to be my new video editing workstation. Note that the processor did hit thermal throttling during the Cinebench R23 test. For a high-end Intel chip, that's pretty standard. It's just how Intel processors behave. They tend to squeeze out extra performance by applying higher voltage to the cores. In real-world scenarios, thermal throttling can occur during gaming sessions, especially while compiling shaders, particularly when your system is set to performance mode. Personally, I never run my mini PCs at full performance mode all the time. I only enable it when I really need the extra power. One thing I've noticed with this Intel processor, reducing TDP has a much bigger impact on gaming performance compared to AMD systems. On AMD, lowering TDP often results in little to no FPS loss. But with this Intel chip, you'll see a noticeable drop in frame rates at lower TDP settings. Idle temperature sits around 50 degrees Celsius with a 10-watt power draw. For comparison, the Evo X1 with the AMD HX370 idled under 40 degrees Celsius. Now let's dive into some real-world tests and compare the Evo T1 with the Evo X1. We'll start with a shader compilation test in Wukong Black Myth, where the AMD processor's superior multi-core performance really shines. Next up is a WinRAR compression test, and here, the Intel Evo T1 pulls ahead, delivering 50% faster results. Then we move on to rendering tests using CapCut. At 1080p, both systems perform equally, but at 4K, it's a different story. Intel's powerful single-core performance takes the lead, delivering a staggering 200% faster render time. Now it's time to dive into the AI chapter. And credit where it's due. Intel has done a much better job integrating AI workloads than AMD, especially with this processor. Intel's AI Boost feature allows GPU, CPU, and NPU workloads to work together, at least in theory. The caveat lies with the NPU. Aside from the Geekbench AI test, I wasn't able to run all 3 processing units simultaneously. And even in Geekbench, the processor usage percentages weren't impressive. But synthetic benchmarks only tell part of the story. Where Intel's AI Boost really shines is in real-world applications. In WAN image and video workloads, AMD's HX370 struggles by relying solely on its CPU and couldn't achieve anything, while Intel's AI Boost combining CPU and GPU gets the job done. Let me be clear. Intel CPU and IGPU support the OpenVINO framework for AI computation, while AMD processors do not. That previous AMD 50% IGPU activity you saw on Task Manager wasn't related to AI workloads. It was just handling general Windows 11 system tasks. Now we're going to run tests using the exact same prompt across DeepSeek, Qwen, and OpenAI models, each at different quantization levels and model sizes, and compare the results with the Evo X1. The prompt is, explain the simulation theory with explanatory graphs and charts. Some models ignored the chart request entirely, while a few of the larger ones delivered visual outputs with graphs and diagrams. In my experience, the best result came from Qwen 332B at 8-bit running on the GPU, but with a very poor speed. That said, the OpenAI 20B model running on the IGPU was arguably the second best, if not the best overall, with an amazing speed. We've just seen the results from Qwen 314B at 8-bit quantization. The speed wasn't great on either the Evo T1 or Evo X1. And to be honest, this model feels like a letdown. It ignored my request for charts. Let's take a quick break and dive into some graph-based reasoning inside LM Studio. In these types of models, Intel doesn't have much of an advantage, since LM Studio doesn't support Intel's AI Boost feature, unlike Comfyui. As you can see here, AMD handles AI computation through its CPU, while Intel relies on its IGPU for acceleration. All right, let's get back to the test showcase, starting with the star of the segment, OpenAI GPT OSS. We're testing 3 models, scaling all the way up to full precision BF16. All of them responded to my chart request, and the speed was outstanding across the board. To wrap up this reasoning LLM segment, I ran 2 EGPU tests using my NVIDIA RTX 4080 Super via the EVO T1 Oculink port. We can note that we are doubling our speed results with the OSS model, which ain't much in reality if you are considering how expensive the RTX 4080 Super. Now we're going to test 2 AI companion models, starting with LumiMade. I created a prompt that requires imagination and storytelling. This is an 8BQ8 model. And for you curious or kinky folks out there, just a heads up, these models are uncensored. Hehe. The prompt is, pretend you're a longtime friend. I just found out I'm moving to another planet and I'm scared. What do you say? I'm letting the model run at native speed with no fast-forward editing, so you can see it's a viable option, delivering around 5.6 tokens per second. My second prompt tests narrative consistency by asking, out of the blue, for news from a made-up cousin. The model respected the space setting in its reply, which shows solid narrative continuity. Next, we're moving on to the Nathina model, a 20BQ8 setup still running with the Intel IGPU. Things get a bit more personal here. I asked the model to pretend to be jealous. Honestly, I wasn't satisfied with her reaction. I expected her to be more mad, like girls usually are. So I doubled down with a ridiculous excuse involving my boss's perfume and a lipstick mark on my shirt. And that's when she got triggered. Please, if you are appreciating this review, please subscribe, comment, and leave a like. This is hard work. Now we're moving into some Comfyui LoRa image generation using Intel's AI Boost feature. As you can see in Task Manager, the IGPU and CPU are working together. I've reserved 32 gigabytes of RAM in the BIOS for the IGPU. And that's why the Evo T1 performs well here, while the Evo X1 struggles. The Evo X1 relies entirely on its CPU, and you can't reserve RAM for the CPU in the same way. For this test, I created a prompt describing my virtual girlfriend, generated from a combination of real video footage and AI-generated imagery. The result closely matches my original footage, and you can definitely see the similarities. It took 297 seconds, just under 5 minutes, to generate this image. In the next test, we used a simpler checkpoint model. Image generation was much faster at 160 seconds, but the quality seemed slightly lower. In the final test, we reduced the resolution. The quality held up well, and the image was generated in just 72 seconds using LoRa. In the following test, I used an Oculink EGPU setup with an RTX 4080 Super. We're going to test Flux, Qwen image, and the awesome Wan models. We start with Flux using a multi-image prompt. The prompt isn't shown on screen, but it was about merging two characters, my virtual girlfriend and the channel mascot, into a new background, both riding a motorbike. And Flux nailed it. In the second test, I tried removing people from an original photo, and once again, Flux delivered, completing the task in just 42 seconds. Next, we move on to Qwen image, which is also impressive. I'd love to explore Qwen image edit in a future review. Qwen image is extremely accurate with text. Just a few months ago, LLM struggled with prompt-based text rendering and often messed up the letters. But Qwen 3 nails it, placing all the text exactly where it should be. Look at the details inside the shop. It's amazing. It was a bit slow, though, because I set it to 40 steps, aiming for precision over speed. The image was generated in 260 seconds. We're wrapping up this AI chapter with Wan. And honestly, it feels like magic. You can revive someone from a souvenir photo, and when I tried it myself, it was a deeply emotional experience. I tested Wan at different resolutions, and I firmly believe that quality is worth more than speed. That principle applies across the board. This review took me 10 days to produce. We're not doing quick out-of-the-box Cinebench scores, game tests, and then packing it all away. That's not what this channel is about. All right, let's get back on track. At 640 by 440 resolution, generation takes about 10 minutes. But at 1024p for a 5-second video, it takes around 25 minutes. Don't be discouraged. AI is evolving at an exponential pace. It's entirely possible that by next month, encoding time could be cut in half. Based on how fast these models have progressed in just the past few weeks, that prediction feels almost certain. Just a quick word about AI training. I didn't have time to do any serious training, but you can definitely train models on the Evo T1. I ran a quick test with just 10 images, and the results were about as rough as the training itself. Still, there's something in the output that feels distinctly Evo T1, a kind of signature that comes through. This mini PC isn't just about AI, it can game too. The ARC 140T deserves some respect. At this price point, Intel had no choice but to deliver. Right now, we're in Minecraft using the BSL shader with the Patrick 64 texture pack. Sure, it's not hitting 60 frames per second, but the gameplay is flawless. Minecraft doesn't need 60 frames per second to be enjoyable. Now I'm switching to the complementary shader, and we're seeing roughly the same average FPS as before. Let's push it further and try the stunning DH horizon with Infinity Sight. Here is the Evo X1 with the AMD chip, but with Patrick's X128 texture pack. The FPS average is even lower, but still 25 FPS is playable. In this side-by-side screen comparison, we can clearly see that the ARC 140T isn't quite on par with AMD's IGPUs. It's kind of a mixed bag with the capacity of Intel iGPU. Here is a rare example where the ARC 140T will outperform the K8 plus 780M iGPU.
Who's going first? Novak, you have a go. Everyone stay close.
I've seen some laptop comparisons between the ARC 140T and AMD's 890M iGPU, and I was expecting better gaming results from Intel's chip. Looking back, I think those comparisons cherry-picked games to make the ARC 140T look better than it actually is. I'd describe the ARC 140T as an unstable hawk point, somewhere between AMD's 780M and 680M. In terms of frequency, the ARC 140T runs at 2,350 MHz, while the AMD 780M hits 2,700 MHz, and the 890M reaches 3,000 MHz. So you pretty much have the performances of your iGPU clock frequency here. I believe the ARC 140T has been optimized more for AI framework support than for gaming. Intel's impressive 3D Mark scores can be misleading in that context. But don't get me wrong, it can definitely game. I've noticed that the ARC 140T struggles to maintain its peak clock frequency. Earlier in the hardware specs chapter, I mentioned that the Evo T1 supports RAM upgrades up to 6,400 MHz. But in this setup, we're running 5,600 MHz RAM. I believe that upgrading the RAM could significantly improve the performance of Intel's iGPU. Here in Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2019, the ARC 140T delivers its worst performance compared to the Evo X1's 890M iGPU. Things get even worse when a title like this is co-developed with AMD, which clearly gives their hardware an edge.
Principal Evans already hates me for being late this morning.
Bro, I told you to be on time.
It's fine. We'll be back before we know it.
Good, because I had my college application review.
We are finishing this iGPU gaming test with Wukong Black Myth at low graphics setting with a 40 super resolution setting and frame generation turned on. Luckily, this title supports Intel XS upscaling, which is doing a better job than FSR at quality level. Before jumping into the Oculink gaming tests with my RTX 4080 Super, let's quickly review the 3D Mark results from this setup. We got the best score with this Intel configuration. Now let's see if that leading position holds up in real-world gaming.
We need to keep this on a tight loop. Barkov's men are moving the gas tonight.
What are the odds we run into General Barkov?
Get him!
Here he is.
Down. We're clear.
Copy. Post up on the ridge and let's get the lay of the land.
In this upcoming Starfield test, I'm going to compare this eGPU setup with my Evo X1 and GMKtec K8 Plus eGPU configurations. Performance differences vary quite a bit depending on the game, but overall, the Evo T1 holds its ground. All three setups are fairly close, though I'd rank the GMKtec K8 Plus as the best and most stable eGPU configuration. It seems these eGPU setups really benefit from strong performance cores, and the K8 Plus has more of them. Keep in mind, I'm using a high-end graphics card here. With mid-range GPUs, the performance gap between these three setups would likely be much smaller. Let's wrap up this review with some pros and cons. The Evo T1 is, without a doubt, the ultimate Intel mini PC. As of today, there's nothing above this Arrow Lake processor. Its AI capabilities are the real deal, not just marketing fluff. With DeepSeek R1 pre-installed and Intel's AI Boost feature extended through XPU support and Comfyui, This mini PC has serious AI power, especially when compared to AMD's HX370. It feels fast across the board, and you shouldn't expect anything less from a $1,000 mini PC. Its single-core and overall CPU performance make the Evo T1 a top-tier workstation for video and audio editing. I edited this entire review on the Evo T1, and that was intentional. I wanted to save time in DaVinci Resolve, especially when scrubbing through the timeline. Overall, the Evo T1 isn't silent, but it's quiet. You won't hear the sudden noise bursts like you do on the Evo X1 at 65 watts. The Evo T1 CPU can pull up to 85 watts, even though its TDP is set at 70 watts. Now for the cons, the IGPU still isn't on par with AMD's offerings. I also feel the RAM module's quality and capacity could have been better. And yes, the Evo T1 is a larger mini PC, so if you're a pure gamer, the Evo X1 is the better choice. But if you're looking for a workstation that can handle gaming below AMD levels while prioritizing AI performance, then the Evo T1 is absolutely the go-to GMKtec model. Please don't forget to